Yes, good morning from my side as well. Hello. Thanks for having me here. I'm one of those early believers. I was here last year for the first conference and I showed my enthusiasm and explained that I liked it very much and I will definitely come back, and obviously the reward is that I have the very early kickoff session. So let's see how that goes. In order to do so, I think it's always nice at the beginning of such an interesting conference. It will be 2 packed days. We already started last night. That we have some kind of state of the industry speech, that we speak a little bit about what's going on, what needs to be addressed. Because I don't believe in that it's just good to speak everything nicely and that everything is fantastic. There are a few issues here in the CEE that we need to be addressed and we need to speak about, and this is something that I would also like to bring up in my little presentation, and let's see whether technology works. The CEE. As we have seen last night, it's fantastic. It's Prague, but it's also other destinations as well. I don't think there's any question that the CEE in general has fantastic cities, old towns, it's rivers, it's the landscape, it's the history, it's fantastic old towns, it's palaces. I mean, where else, how many places do you find where you have such a nice setting like we enjoyed last night, where you can go in a palace, walk around, white wine, red wine, beer, good food, and see that. So I think there's no question at all that this is one of the most attractive destinations here in Europe, probably worldwide. And it's already popular in many ways. You can already see that the tourist numbers are increasing, it's going up, there is quite a lot of stuff happening, and especially as an incentive destination, I think the CEE has already started to kick off a few years ago. There's more and more people coming, and of course, everything can be better, but overall, even despite the crisis last couple of years, the numbers were fairly stable. What needs to be addressed probably a little bit more in the future, and this is exactly the reason why we are all here, that it's not just fun, it's not just nice, it's not just old towns, but there's also a lot of quality that has arrived in the meantime. It's the hotels, it's the venues, the congress centers, that everything is there right now already. There is improvements happening everywhere, but there's already a lot in place. But many people don't know that. I was once again surprised how many people last night I spoke to have never been to Prague before. Or still many of these territories or countries or destinations are unknown, despite the fact that the wall or borders or everything came down 20 years ago, so that's quite a long time. But nevertheless, obviously, there's still a big question mark about this entire area. So the CEE right now, how I see it, in many ways is already in place and ready for meetings, congresses, upscale meetings, and product launches. Not just nice little incentives where you need a nice hotel and a nice setting, but really where you need infrastructure as well. But in order to do so, there is a couple of things that really need to be done, probably addressed on a daily level, locally, and also globally. What is very important is, first of all, I think we all understand that local business is important, a local business culture, because at the end of the day, the meetings are not just there for ourselves or the meeting industry, but at the end of the day, it's the industry behind it. Whether it's the pharmaceutical or the car industry, machinery, whatever, banks, finance. So this is also, it needs a proper local business culture in order to attract the upscale meetings. The destinations we already know in the CEE are nice, and I already mentioned that. Fantastic, nice old towns. But at one stage it's also very important, I think, now to also go a little bit more into that trendy, contemporary factor. Because some of those cities, you sometimes have a feeling like it's museums. Nothing changes, which is good to a certain degree, but it also needs a little bit more of a contemporary touch, whether it's new museums or new galleries or just new venues. No, don't just rely on the old ones. Infrastructure, very, very important. This industry cannot develop without proper infrastructure. It starts from airports, flight connections, congress centers, everything. Without proper modern infrastructure, there will be no progress. And once again, that is something that is different from city to city, that of course there's always local circumstances that make it easier or more difficult, but to a certain degree this is something that needs to be put very high on the agenda right now, that we really go speak about upgrading the infrastructure in many of the destinations. So in order to do so, we need more friends. We need to bring the word out. We need to speak to people. We need to address it locally and globally once again, that there are possibilities, but it all starts with speaking and trying to make friends and really trying to bring the message out to others that don't know yet what exactly the destination stands for and what the challenges are. So very important, at the end of the day, it always comes with what is the image? What does the destination or the entire region stand for? And very often I have the impression that many people, many convention bureaus, many cities, they try to do a little bit of everything. Go after every piece of business and try to be good to everybody. But I find it extremely important that first of all, we all find a certain niche, whether it's by size or by industry, by segment, by structure, whatever, that we're really good in 1, 2, or 3 things where we build a proper image and then venture out from there. But in order to do so, once again, it's very important that you define, first of all, what is your USP? What exactly do you have? How can you sell it to the rest of the world? And then it should snowball, of course, in one or the other direction. But once again, it's also important to reach out and to listen, not just to speak, because you have to understand the industry is constantly changing, the meeting and incentive industry. And the needs are changing, the requirements are changing. Pharmaceutical laws and requirements are changing all the time. And in order to really keep up with all these things, you have to listen, you have to constantly develop and change and invest. Easy steps. It's not rocket science to the most degree. I mean, right now, of course, it all starts with that somebody needs to arrive. There must be accessibility, flight connections. And I know what I'm talking about. I'm coming from Berlin. So Berlin also so far wasn't blessed with a really nice airport. So we all lost quite a lot of business here and there to other destinations who just had better airports, better flight connections to London, to Paris, to Frankfurt, to Amsterdam. Because that is very important. And of course, right now with what happened in Hungary with Malev, that's a bit unfortunate right now. But of course, it's very important that it is also very important that all these airports need to be upgraded, that we need to speak about it, that it's not just a Congress center, doesn't mean anything if you don't have the good flight connections. And by flight connections, I don't mean EasyJet or Ryanair. It should be proper airlines as well. Nothing against EasyJet or Ryanair, but I think for many companies, it's not the appropriate way of traveling to a certain Congress destination. Value for money is something that we probably have here in this part of the world a lot. It's very affordable, but once again, it's always a thin line between value for money, affordable, and being seen as cheap in one way or the other. I think it's also very important. Being affordable is a very big benefit, that's an advantage. But the moment it turns a little bit, that it goes into it's all a bit too cheap, and that people doubt sometimes that there's really proper service or a nice thought behind it, it can also can get a sour taste at one stage. So therefore, it's very important to really concentrate on quality. Quality at affordable prices, value for money, yes, but not just price. Like many things right now are driven, that everybody thinks that if you just be a few euros cheaper than anybody else, that this will get the business. Probably once in a while it will work out, but long term it will not work out. Wi-Fi, once again, with many conference centers, hotels, that's the easiest thing. It doesn't cost anything at all, to be honest, to offer that. And I'm still amazed that in many ways the congress centers or also the hotels, on one hand, their prices are not high, but the moment you want extra services, then there are high charges. That is also something, in my opinion, that many of the hotels need to work on to really be a bit more progressive about that and offer that, because that is just also a need that any hotel, conference center and needs nowadays. Otherwise, it's just not possible anymore. F&B, once again, something very, very, very important. That's something easy that you can really define yourself. I mean, and turn it into a big advantage. I mean, there's very few congress or conference centers that are known for their fantastic food. Or even it's not just fantastic food, but just smart, interesting, presented food, a lot of variety and choice. That is also something that really that region probably, not just the hotels, the conference centers, everybody needs to work on. We just need to also bring out the food factor anymore, because there's fantastic food and wine and beer and everything is here. But once again, it's just a very not well known right now. This is also could be, in my opinion, a big factor by attracting new kind of business. So it all ends up with that it's very important to communicate. And once again, by communicating, I mean not just speaking, getting the word out, but also listening, understanding what is happening, what's being, speak to your competitors, speak to other destinations, find out exactly what is happening, what are the trends in other countries, with whom are you actually competing, and why is that? How are other destinations seen? And then see what does it take from our side here in order to change that. Because once again, we don't live on an island, everything and everybody is connected to each other, so therefore it's very important to reach out, to speak, to communicate, and therefore such a forum like this one is fantastic, because I must say I'm a strong believer in this format. I think it's, once again, it's contemporary. It's much better than these huge meetings that, I mean, there's a need for that as well, for the IMEXs or the ITBs or the EIBTMs. But on one hand, this is 10 times more intimate, more personal. The chance to connect here, to have quality time with people, with suppliers, with competitors, with clients is 10 times higher. So therefore, really take advantage of it, reach out, speak to people, don't be shy. And once again, lead the way. Don't just wait for others to set standards, but also just think about it that there's no reason here for this region also to be front runner in many ways and come up with interesting new solutions and how to package, how to price, how to present itself. So it doesn't take others to do so. So simply embrace the future. That is more or less my message for this morning. And first presentation is history. Thank you very much for listening to me.